Freddie Freeman was officially placed on the injured list. Who should come up on the roster? Let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. This is the daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers and undefeated Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. You can make that easier by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube, like we are here on Thursday night. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snyder. We've been doing this podcast for in year 7 now. We've been covering the team for over a decade in our own ways, and we've been Dodger fans our whole lives. So we've seen a lot of Dodgers, talked a lot of Dodgers, and we'll continue to do both of those things. Jeff, Freddie Freeman was officially placed on the injured list. I don't know if that means he didn't travel with the team or whatever it means. It means that the Dodgers are going to get somebody else on the roster, and we're going to talk about who that may be.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because usually when somebody goes on the IL, we hear the corresponding move at the same time. Pretty clear the reason the Dodgers are doing it this way. They didn't play today, and you can only backdate an injured list stint 3 days. And so by putting him on the IL today, it's 1 day sooner that he's available to come back. So basically, they've got this road trip to Philadelphia and DC, and then he's eligible to come off at the end. I would guess this means he's staying at home and just recuperating. I don't know that for sure, but the timing I think was just so to make sure that he's available next Friday when the Dodgers come back home. And in the meantime, that gives them an extra day to decide who they are going to call up to replace him. Because as we're going to discuss here, there's a lot of possibilities, and none of them are necessarily the easy answer.
Yeah, if there was an easy answer, this segment wouldn't be as long as it's going to be. But fortunately, there really isn't. Dalton Rushing would be the name maybe most people think of instantly off the bat. If it's just going to be a week for Freddie, realistically, the Dodgers aren't going to add him to the 40-man for that. He did come out of a game early the other day after getting hit by a foul ball on the helmet when he was catching. He did miss a game, but he did come back, but he hasn't necessarily been off to the greatest start offensively anyways. And then I think he had a pretty bad night here on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I read. He's actually doing pretty well until today. But that's the thing. Just like we said yesterday, if your bad season can turn into a good season in one night, it's not a big enough sample size. Same thing here, but apparently he struck out 5 times for Oklahoma City tonight. That's what I read, dropping his batting average down to 188. Before this, coming in today, he had a 946 OPS in AAA. I saw the foul ball that he took off the mask and his reaction.
He stumbled back.
Yeah, I don't
know how he stayed there, didn't he?
I was very surprised that he isn't on the concussion injured list. And maybe after 5 strikeouts in one game, when he had 4 strikeouts in the first 4 games combined, maybe he will go on the concussion list now. I do think, like you said, he's not a first baseman. He's played first base in college. He's played some in the minors. He's not a first baseman, not a major league starting first baseman. And so, it probably doesn't make sense to put him on the 40-man roster right now, especially because they just they just put Kyle Hurt on the 60-day IL to open up a spot for Estuary Ruiz, which means Kyle Hurt was like the break glass in case of fire option for the 60-day IL because he starts accruing major league service time. I didn't think they would do that. I thought he would go the Nick Frasso route from last year where he's just on the minor league IL the whole season. So them putting him on the 60-day IL, they don't have any other 60-day IL candidates right now that we know of. You never know with Dodgers injuries.
Yeah. But I guess Henriquez could be, depending how long it's going to take.
Yeah, it was a foot injury, and he was walking at the ring ceremony, so I'm guessing they're not expecting it to be 2 full months. But yeah, there's no obvious IL candidate, which means DFAing somebody, and then you start getting into guys like Matt Sauer, or is that his name, Matt Sauer?
Yeah.
Or
Luis Garcia,
Noah Davis, who they just traded for. Some of these guys, really, that's the only three I'm seeing that makes sense.
Three Ruiz, they could try to sneak them by again.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, they gave up Carlos Duran for Ruiz. So and maybe this answers the next question, because the other obvious name would be David Bodie, who is kind of in limbo. We don't know. We know he exercised his upward mobility clause or some, moving on up like the Jeffersons. That's an old man reference.
I know that song.
But all we know is that it says he's on the restricted list. And I don't know if that's a paperwork thing or if that means that he refused to go to AAA after he exercised his upward mobility clause. I don't know if there's bad feelings or not there. I don't know if he's just at Camelback Ranch working on a swing. I have no idea where he is. So he would make sense. He can play first base, but also that he would have to be added to the 40-man roster too.
Yeah, it's tough to see what they're going to do because, like you said, with the 40-man roster, they're not at a crunch per se, but they're definitely nearing that section of it where they're like, okay, we had all these hurt guys, and all these hurt guys are now on the 60-day IL, and we're going to have to decide what to do after that. But when you look at the 40-man roster, it's not necessarily stacked with anyone to come up. The only ones on the 40-man roster that aren't already in the majors are Hyeseong Kim, James Outman, Esteury Ruiz, and Hunter Feduccia. Now, Hunter Feduccia is hitting very well so far early in the season over there. James Outman is not hitting very well. He struck out 11 times in 22 at-bats. I'm not sure if that was leading into Thursday or after Thursday's game, but either way, not good regardless. Hyeseong Kim, they sent him down there for a reason. I don't think that this would be the reason they call him back up so soon. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. If they just want an extra guy in the outfield, then they can call up Outman. If they want an extra bat off the bench, they can call up Feduccia. And if they think Freddie's thing might linger, then, yeah, maybe it's Bodie. I know he's not a first baseman, but they don't need a first baseman specifically. They just need somebody else on the roster. Eddie Rosario is hitting well. I don't think it's the time for that either, but you never know.
Yeah, Rosario would need a 40-man roster spot too. Feduccia, a lot of people just assume, I'm sure Hunter Feduccia can play first base. Feduccia played 2 games at first base in the Northwoods Summer League in 2017, and that's the last time he has played first base. So, he would be a bat off the bench. They do have Kike Hernandez, who is doing fine. We saw yesterday.
We saw the worst of it. Yes.
Yeah, we saw the worst of it. At least one of Muncy's errors probably gets caught by Freddie, possibly both, with Freddie having a longer reach, although that throw on the bunt was a bad throw. It probably wasn't going to get saved by any first baseman, but Freddie probably catches Muncy's first error, changes that whole game, doesn't give it, we wouldn't have Shohei's walk-off. So I'm glad that happened. But yeah, I mean, we saw Muncy make 5 more throws after the 2 errors, and he hit Kike in the chest every time. Most of the time, infielders are going to hit the first baseman in the chest, and so maybe they can survive with just Kike, which then means, yeah, you don't need to worry about what position does anybody play to call him up. And so then it's like, okay, James Outman striking out half the time in AAA. Hyeseong Kim still a work in progress. I do think the swing looks better, but I don't know if it's better enough to say, okay, come play in the big leagues now, especially since it wouldn't be a starting role. And so, maybe it is Hunter Feduccia who is kind of, he's a good bat off the bench. And, that might be the easy choice, but also the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah, especially when you have Chris Taylor on the roster already, who's, you're not going to pinch hit Chris Taylor because you think he's going to hit. It might be in a situation where, I guess there's not many situations that I would see him pinch hitting. But,
or Austin Barnes.
Yeah.
So exactly. Or Miguel Rojas.
Yeah. So you have one bat, and, the other guys will play the defensive side of things. And realistically, that might be, honestly, I think that might be the move now that we're kind of talking through it. It makes the most sense in terms of what they need for the next week. The other thing I did want to talk about real quick is, if it is going to be a full week, do they put Muncy at first and then, just rotate third base?
Yeah, I do think probably Kike's I know Kike's a better defensive third baseman than Muncy. I would guess that Muncy's a better defensive first baseman than Kike, although, at least on the throws. I love Kike's his infielder mentality at first base. Seeing him go get balls. I like having an infielder at first base, except on the throw. So yeah, I could go back and forth on that because
it's 6 games that for sure you're not going to have Freddie. I would imagine that's enough to say, all right, Muncie, you go back across the diamond.
Yeah, it really comes down to what do they expect more of? Ground balls to first base that Kike might make the play on that, you kind of got to weigh all that stuff, but it's definitely a possibility when there's some out time.
Yeah, so we'll know this answer pretty early in the day. The Dodgers play at 3 p.m. Pacific, so we'll know at some time before then, and we'll see what they decide to do. We'll see what the lineup looks like, but no Freddie for a week. I think this is the right call. Freddie's going to always want to play, but like Robert said the other day, we have to be firm with him and make decisions for him basically, and
protect him from himself a little bit.
Yeah. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the starting rotation and how the Dodgers might manage it now that we're fully into the season, fully into it. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. I want to thank you for watching Locked On Dodgers, and today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site you made for the skilled trades. Supply House, whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with the complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, if you use the promo code SH5, you'll get 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters, and that's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure that they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I'm not one that does pre-workout. If the few times I do work out, and I would have the bag here normally, but it's in my cupboard right now. But yeah, the pre-workout's great. It doesn't make you feel like I don't know. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel ready to go, and it doesn't make you feel negative. Like, I don't like this feeling, because that's probably because of the clean and transparent ingredients. They prioritize wholesome, nourishing ingredients without all the artificial junk. And either if you're recovering after a workout or you need an energy boost before a workout, you can get their pre-workout to deliver real results. So visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, just follow just.ingredients on Instagram. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, your last listen of the day, any listen of your day. We appreciate those of you that listen to Locked On Dodgers. We appreciate those of you that have been around for a while, and those people that have just joined this season. Whenever you are, we appreciate that. If you want to go beyond the podcast, you can become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers, and get a link to our exclusive Discord server. If you're on YouTube already, check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. They're running 24/7, bringing you news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. All right, Jeff, we asked our insiders about questions or thought process starters for today's episode, and we got one on the starting rotation, right?
Yeah, this one actually came in email before we even asked for anything.
Yeah,
this one came in last night from Eric Davenport in our email. He said, how are the Dodgers going to navigate their starting pitching with 6 straight games starting Friday, then another 6 starting the following Friday? Roki apparently only going to pitch once a week, and if he goes 4 innings or less, the bullpen consequences to that seem significant. Feels like Knack, Miller, or Robleski are needed to augment the rotation soon.
Yeah. I'm not sure, with all the off days, they might be able to get through this month, depending how they want to do it, like how strict they're sticking to things. I'm sure the way they mapped it out means that guys are getting the right extra days of rest that need the extra days of rest. I would imagine at this point, it's Roki is like priority 1 of needing the whole 6 days in between starts. I'm assuming Yamamoto could go on 5 days if they need him to. But yeah, I mean, just kind of the way everything worked out, like with Snell pitching the last game of this series, he went on somewhat, I mean, not normal rest, but they got the extra day of rest for the Yamamoto and Sasaki. So I think they're good for now. But yeah, they will need an arm at some point.
Yeah, and it could get tricky because like if you look at Yamamoto pitching on Friday, well, then his spot in the rotation would come up again to pitch on Wednesday, just on regular 4 days rest. Sasaki on Saturday would then have until the next Friday. So that would be 5 days rest, which is still one less than he's had the other times through. And then Sasaki would then line up pitching on the 11th and then pitching again. Basically the same thing Yamamoto's at this week, Friday, and then Wednesday. That would be Roki the next time through. That I feel like that's when we really might see it. I think they'd probably be okay with Yamamoto one time on 4 days rest and Roki one time on 5 days rest. But going to Roki on 4 days rest doesn't seem like a realistic possibility at this point. And then they go back to, the next week they do have 2 days off. And so it would kind of free things up a little bit. But yeah, we might need to see either a spot start. It's hard to see them doing a bullpen game with how much the bullpen has already been worked because no starter has gone more than 5 innings yet. And one starter has gone well lower than 5 innings both times he pitched. And yeah, like Eric says in the email, if Roki only goes 3 innings on Saturday, that could throw a big wrench in whatever plans they have.
Yeah, that's the biggest part of this is guys not going deep into the game. For Roki and for Yamamoto, yeah, I think they're going to try to keep them away from 4 days off for sure. It seems like, to me, it feels like, depending how they feel on Gonsolin and Phillips, it might be one where they call up a spot starter. Luis Garcia goes the DFA route. They call up a spot starter some point next week in the Washington series, and then they send him back down the next day to call up Phillips. Whether that's Gonsolin making that spot start and then getting an option for Phillips, I don't know if they do that. I think it might be more of like a Knack or Robleski getting called up, and then they go down for Phillips, and then we'll see where Gonsolin's at after that. And maybe Gonsolin becomes a 6th starter, like de facto 6th starter the next time through the rotation. There's a lot of options for them to get through right now. There's also a possibility. I think they're good on game times at the moment, but there is rain this weekend, so that could throw another wrench into their plans. So, they know more than we know. They have it all mapped out, but I would assume that's kind of what the thinking is right now.
Yeah, Evan Phillips did pitch today for Oklahoma City, and according to our buddy Mike Salas, he said on the broadcast, they said they expect him to maybe be in Oklahoma City for 2 or 3 weeks. So his fastball topped out at 94, so it seems like he is still a ways away from being ready, and Gonsolin only going, 2 innings, I think, today. So it probably is more one of these other guys who's actually built up, even if it's a punting game, where it's okay, we don't expect much from you. Go give us 6 innings and hope the offense can win the game for us. Might be what they need to do.
Yeah, and I feel like, Knack is good for that. Knack's good to give you quality through 4, and then he can get you through 6 if you need to. But that's in the past, that's kind of where, at least last year, which that's where he was at. Like, he would give you 4 solid for the most part, and then the 5th, 6th innings, if he got that deep, would be a little bit more shaky 2 times through the lineup. Realistically, if the changeup is real from what we saw in Japan, then that might help him get that 3rd time through a lineup, or at least halfway through the 3rd time through a lineup, whatever you need. So yeah, well, we're gonna see somebody in Washington, I would imagine, barring no rain this weekend in Philadelphia. And then they'll have to decide what they want to do with the pen, because if they do have to DFA someone they wouldn't have to. Oh yeah, they would have to DFA Garcia if he comes off the 26 man. So then they'll have to decide what they want to do with the bullpen.
Yeah, Maddie Man in the chat says if Roki's bad, let him wear it. And I think it boils down to what kind of bad is he. If he's just giving up some runs, yeah, they can let him wear it. But what we saw last night, it took him 61 pitches to get through 2 innings. you can't let him keep going because that risks his health. That throwing what he threw 20 something pitches in the first inning and 30 something in the second inning. I mentioned it reminded me of Caleb Ferguson's debut in Pittsburgh several years ago, where they had to pull him just because he was up to like 40 something pitches in an inning. And so that's the thing. If Roki can't throw a strike like last time, you can't make him wear it because you risk injuring him. And, he's a long-term project, and you can't put your short-term needs ahead of the long-term project.
Yeah, wearing it means that you're getting shelled. Roki hasn't got shelled yet. He's just not throwing strikes.
Yeah. So, if he's just giving up runs, sweet. Yeah. Let him give up 10 runs in 6 innings. If he can do that in 90 pitches, no problem. But it's the pitch count is the big concern there.
Yeah. So, Dodger 8-0, but there are still concerns on the underlying side of things. And one of those is Andy Pages was not hit very well to start the season. And we also know that his defense isn't that great. So that's not a great combination. But what are the Dodgers going to do if he continues that way? We're going to talk about it, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. If you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, tickets drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the Dodgers hit the road, if you're out there on the East Coast or you're traveling to visit them, you can count on Game Time to help you grab tickets. Or if you're waiting for them to come back home, they come back next Friday, and it'll be Freddie Freeman bobblehead night when they give away the bobblehead of him celebrating and raising his arm and the bat after his grand slam in game 1 of the World Series. So there's a lot to get into. Game Time can help you get all of it. They got a bunch of different things. The lowest price guarantee means you'll never get a seat and have that regret. So make sure to check that out. You can always look at the seats before you buy if you don't know where you're sitting or you're sitting somewhere new. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, an everydayer is just someone that listens or watches every day. That is a lot of the people that are here live with us on YouTube right now. That is probably a lot of you that are listening. And if you're not already an everydayer, it's easy to become one. You just start listening or watching every day. We're in the swing of things. The Dodgers 8-0. The season just started. There's no reason not to get your Dodger fix every Sunday night through Thursday night or Monday through Friday, however you want to enjoy Locked On Dodgers. We're not going to knock you there. And if you want to go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right, Jeff. Like you said, the Dodgers are 8-0, and we've talked through the games when there's, a concern or whatever there is. And at this point in the season, the concern level probably isn't above a 5 or 6 for most cases. But one of those main concerns right now for the Dodgers is center field, specifically with Andy Pages getting the bulk of the starts there. And the fact of the matter that he's not hitting very well so far. We've already seen a couple plays on defense that he maybe could have had. We've also seen a play that he made that he looked pretty good on, going back on the ball, catching it out the wall. So is there concern for Pages? And if there is, where do the Dodgers go from here?
Yeah, I do think there is concern for Pages. I wasn't even that impressed with the nice play you mentioned. It was a nice play, but it was I suspect a better center fielder would have made it look a lot easier than he made it look. And I could be wrong about that. I'm sure he's a better defensive center fielder than I am. So I'll preface it with that. But the fact is, if he's not playing good defense and he's not hitting and he's a bad base runner, like, is there a place for him? And, I think the whole thought with Andy Pages was, well, he's the best hitter of the options. So let's have him up there and we will slug our way past the defensive issues. And the Dodgers as a team are doing that. Andy Pages himself is not doing that. And so if you're going to have a center fielder who can't hit, it might as well be one who plays better defense, and I think both James Outman and Hyeseong Kim would fall into that category. Kim has been playing a lot of center field in Oklahoma City, and Outman obviously has experience playing center field, is a good defensive center fielder. Not great, but good. I do think some Dodger fans have an exaggerated opinion of James Outman's defense just because they are comparing it to Andy Paez. I think Outman is a good, solid defensive center fielder, which would probably make him the best defensive outfielder in the Dodgers outfield currently with Teo and Conforto out there. I might lean towards Kim if he's been hitting decently at AAA. The swing to my eyes does look a little bit better. And so maybe they do decide, you know what, we think that Kim is ready to take that next step of his development and see if he can hit big league pitching for a little while. He would probably play better defense and be a better base runner and wouldn't be a worse hitter than Paez has been so far this year. Not to say he's as good a hitter as Paez, but he's as good a hitter as Paez has been so far.
Yeah, when they made the decision to start Kim in the minors, I figured it would be at least 3 weeks, barring a significant injury, to where they let him get a little bit more acclimated, let him get a little bit more comfortable, let him play a little bit more center field since that was, brought into the mix. And I still feel like that's probably where it is. And realistically, if the Dodgers keep winning, Andy Paez is, still playing the same way he's playing, the Dodgers will go at least 3 weeks before deciding anything. But yeah, I do think if Kim continues to show improvement hitting and he can handle center field, then that makes, a lot of sense for the Dodgers to just make that swap at this point, because, you don't face as many lefties anyways, and Paez isn't. He faced Chris Sale and Skubal as the two of the main lefties. So, maybe there's a little bit of grace there, and maybe they face some more lefties coming up and he does start hitting them. But yeah, if Paez isn't doing well at any part of the game, and he's starting, we can talk about other guys, and even other guys have value defensively, but there's, not the value defensively, not the value offensively right now, and not the value on the bases. So yeah, there's value in him playing outfield in OKC.
Yeah, don't care. 187 in the chat says Kim can play better defense and run the bases better, so I can forgive the bat. I agree with that, but it's not so much about forgiving the bat. Again, just like we were talking about with who were we just? Oh, about Roki Sasaki being a long-term project. Hyeseong Kim is a long-term project, and so I think it's more about his development than what's best for the major league team right now. And so that's why I do think, like you said, Vince, they give it another week or two at least to see how's Kim doing, making the adjustment in AAA. Is Paez bouncing back at all? And if 2 weeks from now, Kim is still hitting well in AAA and Paez is still hitting not at all in the majors, then yeah, at that point, then maybe they pull the trigger. But this is not an urgent need for the Dodgers because they are still winning. It's their number 9 hitter. And, the fact is Paez does still have potential. He can surprise you with the base hit or even with a home run. And the fact that he hasn't doesn't mean that he won't.
Yeah, and that's the big thing of you're waiting for that turnaround of the offense. And, the offense can make you forget a lot of things on the defensive side, realistically. But if it's not there, then, yeah, everything on defense is going to be magnified just a little bit more. Do you get a question about Edman in center and Kim at second? I honestly think they're really liking what they're seeing out of Edman at second base and up the middle. And I think, honestly, at some point there might be a question of swapping Edman and Mookie. And because Edman, at first it felt like he was going to be more of a center fielder, and then that didn't quite work out that way. And now that he's in the middle infield, and now you're like, well, if he's going to stay a middle infielder, why not just swap him? I know they don't want to do that to Mookie, but realistically, that's probably, where it might go eventually.
Yeah, only if Mookie can't handle shortstop. For me, I've been saying all offseason, I want Edman at second base. Tommy Edman is a literal gold glove second baseman. He is solid in center field. He's solid at shortstop. He is elite at second base. And so I want Tommy Edman at second base unless he absolutely has to move somewhere else. And I think the Dodgers feel the same way. That's why they say, hey, Kim, learn how to play center field. And Mookie, they're going to give him every chance. Mookie's made one error. It was a fluky error. He was trying to hold up a throw and it slipped out of his hand. It's an error that happens. But overall, Mookie's played fine at shortstop. and Tommy Edman. We've seen his defense make a huge difference at second base. That's where I want Tommy Edman every game for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So there's moving pieces. Again, it's going to be slowed by the fact that the Dodgers are probably going to keep winning realistically, and they're going to have, time to let guys either develop down in the minors or figure things out in the majors. And when we are talking about it, it is the number 9 hitter. Center field is very important, but not as important in April as it will be later in the year. So, like, if we were talking about a playoff series right now, yeah, then it's definitely, you wouldn't want Paz out there if he's not hitting and being bad defensively.
And we saw that last year. Paz didn't play much center field in the postseason last year. And this is April. This is month 1 of a long season, and the goal right now is not, don't care in the chat says defense wins championships. Nothing wins championships in April. The only thing you can do in April is play the schedule, and they will figure it out as time goes by. But the nice thing is they're going to be good enough. They don't have to figure everything out right now. They can give things time to settle in and kind of figure themselves out a little bit.
Yeah. So Dodgers on the road, they take on the Phillies, and then they take on the Nationals. Some earlier start times for us fans here in LA. Friday's game is on Apple TV. So if you don't have Apple TV already, I don't know if they're letting you watch the games free still, to start the season. But if you need a trial, you might as well do it, because then you can watch the Dodger doc as well. And, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Watch the Dodgers Phillies, and then watch that Dodger doc that we talked about. And still have an interview with director RJ Cutler available on our page if you want to go check that out. If you watch the doc and want to learn a little bit more into the back end of things. So
yeah, that doc was so good. You should definitely watch it, and then watch it again, and then probably watch it again.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, you got anything else before we get out for the weekend?
I did see that James Outman had a double and a walk-off single tonight, and so maybe he's making his case,
There you go. He heard us talking, and now he wants to go. So go check out OKC. Also, they're playing. Like you said, there's a lot going on. There's a lot with the Dodgers, and Dodgers 8-0. And I did see a stat real quick before we get out that the Padres start 7-0, raise their chances of winning the division from 4% to 5%. So that's got to, anytime someone starts 7-0, you feel like it would move a little bit more than that. But when you're 7-0 and you're not even fully in first place, that's just how it goes sometimes. So.
Yep.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts, or on YouTube, or honestly, wherever you can listen or watch, you can do that. If you need to go beyond the podcast, you can go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers. Ask us questions directly, and get invited to our Discord server. If you're on YouTube, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can check us out on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at SnyDog. I'm at Vincent's91. You can DM us for any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, text my device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you in a few days.